Hollywood, 1920. The camera stopped rolling, but nobody had called cut. Charlie Chaplin stood frozen in the middle of his studio lot, watching a 4-year-old boy crumple to the ground like a marionette whose strings had been severed. The child's name was Jackie Coogan, and in that moment, surrounded by expensive equipment and a crew of 40 men, the most famous comedian in the world felt something he hadn't felt in years. Terror. Not the theatrical kind he performed for cameras, real terror. The kind that grips your chest and squeezes until you cannot breathe. The boy wasn't moving. Chaplin crossed the distance in 3 desperate strides, his oversized tramp shoes nearly tripping him. He dropped to his knees on the cold concrete floor, oblivious to the dirt staining his signature baggy pants. The crew watched in stunned silence. Nobody dared speak. Nobody dared move. What happened in the next few minutes would never make it into any biography. No journalist would ever write about it. But it would change everything for both of them. This is the untold story of how a broken comedian and a fatherless child saved each other. 6 months earlier, Charlie Chaplin had been searching for something he couldn't name. He was 30 years old, the most recognized face on the planet. His films had made millions laugh during the darkest years of the Great War. The little tramp character had become a symbol of hope for the common man. The eternal underdog who always got back up no matter how many times life knocked him down. But behind the bowler hat and the cane, behind the waddle and the painted smile, Chaplin was drowning. His marriage to Mildred Harris was falling apart. The child they had conceived, the son Chaplin had desperately wanted, had lived only 3 days. 3 days. The baby's name was Norman Spencer Chaplin. He had held his son exactly once before the tiny body went cold. Now, alone in his sprawling studio on La Brea Avenue, Chaplin paced the empty sound stages at night. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. The laughter he created for others felt like a foreign language he had forgotten how to speak. He needed something, someone. He just didn't know what. The answer came on an ordinary afternoon in the form of an extraordinary child. Chaplin was having lunch at the Los Angeles Orpheum Theater, watching a vaudeville show with his friend Roscoe Arbuckle. The acts blurred together, singers, dancers, jugglers, the usual parade of desperate talent, hoping to be discovered. Then a small figure shuffled onto the stage. He couldn't have been more than 4 years old, dark curly hair, eyes too large for his face. He was dressed in a miniature version of his father's costume, performing a routine called the Kids' Cabaret Act. His father, Jack Coogan Sr., danced beside him. But Chaplin didn't see the father, he only saw the boy. Jackie moved with a natural grace that couldn't be taught. His timing was instinctive, animal-like. When he fell funny. When he smiled, you believed it. And when he looked sad, when his small face crumpled into an expression of pure, devastating sorrow, Chaplin felt his heart crack open. He leaned toward Arbuckle. His voice was barely a whisper. That boy. I need that boy. The meeting was arranged for the following week. Jack Coogan Sr. brought his son to Chaplin Studios on a Tuesday morning. The father was nervous, talking too fast, making promises about his boy's ability. But Chaplin wasn't listening. He was watching Jackie. The child wandered around the enormous soundstage, touching everything. Lights, cameras, props. He picked up Chaplin's cane and attempted the famous twirl. He failed spectacularly, the cane flying across the room and nearly hitting a grip. Jackie looked up at Chaplin with those enormous eyes. Sorry, mister. Chaplin smiled. A real smile. Do it again. Jackie tried again. Failed again. Laughed at himself. Tried once more. In that moment, Chaplin saw himself, not the famous comedian, the 7-year-old boy who had performed on the London music hall stages to feed his family. The child who had learned to make people laugh because the alternative, letting them see his pain, was unthinkable. He turned to Jack Coogan Sr. I want to make a picture with your son. A feature, not a short, a real film. The father's eyes went wide. A feature film, with Charlie Chaplin. This was beyond anything he had imagined. What's the story? He asked. Chaplin looked back at Jackie, who had given up on the cane and was now making faces at his own reflection in a piece of polished equipment. I don't know yet, Chaplin said quietly. But I'll find it. He found it in his own path. For weeks, Chaplin locked himself in his office, writing and rewriting. He pulled from the darkest corners of his memory, Places he had spent 30 years trying to forget. The Lambeth workhouse. The smell of carbolic soap and despair. His mother's face the day they took her away to the asylum. Her eyes already somewhere else. Somewhere far from the squalid London streets, where her sons would learn to survive alone. He wrote about a woman, a mother who abandons her baby because she cannot afford to keep him. The child grows up on the streets, adopted by a tramp who finds him in an alley. Together they navigate a cruel world that offers them nothing but kicks and hunger. It was autobiography disguised as fiction. It was therapy disguised as entertainment. He called it The Kid. Filming began in the summer of night. From the first day, Chaplin knew he had found something special in Jackie Coogan. The boy didn't act. He simply existed in front of the camera with a naturalness that veteran performers spent decades trying to achieve. But getting that performance wasn't easy. Chaplin was a perfectionist, a tyrant, some said. He demanded take after take after take, sometimes shooting a single scene 50 times until it matched the vision in his head. Adult actors wilted under this pressure. They complained, they broke. Jackie never complained. Not once. But the strain showed in other ways. The boy started having nightmares. He would fall asleep between takes, exhausted beyond what any 4-year-old should endure. His appetite disappeared. Dark circles appeared under those famous eyes. And then halfway through production, something happened that changed everything. Jack Coogan Sr. died. It was sudden, unexpected. A car accident on a routine drive. One moment Jackie had a father. The next moment he had a memory. The production shut down. Chaplin didn't know what to do. How do you ask a child to perform comedy when his world has just shattered? He considered abandoning the project entirely. But then he received a message from Jackie's mother, Lillian. She wanted to. They sat in Chaplin's office, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the cluttered desk. Lillian Coogan was composed, but Chaplin could see the devastation beneath the surface. He recognized it. He had worn the same mask after his own son's death. Jackie wants to continue, she said. Chaplin shook his head. He's 4 years old. He doesn't understand what he wants. He understands more than you think. Lillian paused. His father believed in this film. He believed in you. If we stop now, she couldn't finish. Chaplin understood. Sometimes the only way through grief is through work, through creation, through building something that outlasts the pain. Bring him tomorrow, he said. Jackie returned to the set. He was different now, quieter. The playful energy had dimmed. When Chaplin looked at him, he no longer saw just a talented child performer. He saw a boy who had just learned that the world could take everything from you without warning. He saw himself. Chaplin threw away the shooting schedule. He dismissed most of the crew. For the next 3 weeks, he worked with Jackie alone, just the two of them, and a single cameraman. He didn't direct. He didn't demand. He played. They created a private language of gestures and looks. When Chaplin needed Jackie to cry, he wouldn't ask for tears. Instead, he would tell the boy a story, sometimes about a lost puppy, sometimes about a child looking for his mother. Jackie would listen, and the tears would come naturally. But there were also moments of genuine joy. Chaplin taught Jackie the waddle, the cane twirl, the art of turning tragedy into comedy with a single raised eyebrow. They developed bits together, building scenes from scratch, letting Jackie's instincts guide the way. For the first time in months, Chaplin felt something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. Hope. Then came the day that nearly ended everything. It was the final week of filming. They were shooting one of the most emotionally demanding scenes, the moment when authorities tried to take the kid away from the tramp. Jackie had to cry, to scream, to reach desperately for Chaplin while men in uniforms pulled him away. They had already done 15 takes. 15 times Jackie had screamed for the tramp. 15 times Chaplin had reached back, his own eyes wet with real tears. But it wasn't right. Something was missing. Again Chaplin called. The crew exchanged worried glances. Jackie was pale. His lips were trembling. And not just from acting. Charlie, the assistant director said carefully, maybe we should take a break. The kid looks. Again. Take 16. Take 17. Take 18. On take 19 Jackie collapsed. It wasn't dramatic. One moment he was reaching for Chaplin, screaming pop, the line that wasn't even in the script, the word that had emerged organically from somewhere deep inside the boy's broken heart. The next moment his eyes rolled back, and he crumpled to the ground. The set fell silent. The camera kept rolling for 3 more seconds before someone had the presence of mind to stop it. Chaplin reached Jackie first. The boy was breathing, shallow, rapid breaths. His small body was burning with fever. Later, the doctor would diagnose exhaustion compounded by a respiratory infection that had been building for days. Jackie had said nothing about feeling ill. He had pushed through because he didn't want to disappoint anyone, because his father had believed in this film, because at 4 years old, he already understood that sometimes you have to keep performing even when you're dying inside. Chaplin gathered the boy in his arms. Jackie weighed almost nothing. His small head lolled against Chaplin's shoulder, dark curls matted with sweat. The crew stood frozen, unsure what to do. The assistant director stepped forward. "Charlie, should I call everyone out?" Chaplin's voice was steady, dangerously so. "Everyone, out, now." They left. The soundstage emptied in seconds, leaving only Chaplin and the unconscious child, surrounded by fake walls and painted backdrops representing a world of poverty and struggle. Chaplin carried Jackie to a cot in the corner of the set. He dipped a cloth in water, pressed it to the boy's forehead. His hands were shaking. For a long time he simply sat there watching Jackie breathe, watching the small chest rise and fall. And he thought about his own childhood. He thought about his mother Hannah, going mad by inch. The day she had chased after a strange woman, convinced it was her lost daughter. The day she had been taken away in a cart, while 7-year-old Charlie watched from a window. He thought about the workhouse, the endless hunger, the older boys who beat him for sport, the cold stone floors where he had learned to sleep without dreaming because dreams only reminded you of what you didn't have. He thought about the stages of London, where he had discovered that if you made people laugh, they might forget to hurt you. If you wore a mask of comedy, nobody could see the tragedy underneath. And he thought about his son, Norman, 3 days old, 3 days of hope, before the universe reminded him that happiness was a loan, never a gift. He had spent 30 years building walls around his heart, building characters and routines and an empire of laughter designed to keep the world at a safe distance. Now, watching this small boy fight for breath, Chaplin felt those walls crumbling. Jackie stirred, his eyes fluttered open, confused and afraid. "Mr. Charlie." Chaplin leaned closer. His voice, when it came, was barely a whisper. "I'm here. Did I mess up the scene?" Chaplin felt something break inside him. This child, this grieving, exhausted, feverish child, was worried about disappointing him. "No," Chaplin said. "You were perfect. You're always perfect." Jackie's eyes filled with tears, not acting tears, real ones. "My papa said I had to be perfect. He said you were counting on me. He said," the boy's voice cracked. "He said he'd be watching from heaven to make sure I didn't let you down." Chaplin took the boy's small hand in his own, and he told Jackie something that nobody else in the world would ever hear. Nobody knows exactly what Chaplin whispered to Jackie Coogan on that soundstage in December 19. Chaplin never wrote it down, not in his autobiography, not in any letter that has survived. But we know what happened next. When filming resumed 2 weeks later, something had changed between them. The dynamic was different, softer, more protective. Chaplin rewrote the ending of the film. In the original script, the tramp and the kid were separated forever. Now they were reunited. The final scene showed them together, walking toward a new life. It was the ending Chaplin needed, the ending he had been denied in his own childhood. Years later, in a rare interview, Jackie Coogan, by then a grown man who had survived Hollywood's cruelty, survived losing his fortune to his own mother, survived becoming a cautionary tale, was asked about his time with Chaplin. "He told me something that day," Jackie said. His voice was quiet. "Something I've never forgotten." The interviewer leaned forward. "What did he say?" Jackie was silent for a long moment. "He said that the pain never goes away." "Not really, but it can become something else. It can become the thing that makes you great." He paused, and he said that from now on he would make sure I was never alone with it. Not like he had been. The Kid premiered on February 6. Critics called it a masterpiece, the first film to successfully blend slapstick comedy with genuine emotional depth. Audiences laughed and cried, sometimes simultaneously, but the true measure of its success wasn't in tickets sold or reviews written. It was in what it created between two broken people. Charlie Chaplin never officially adopted Jackie Coogan. The boy had a mother, a family, a life beyond the soundstage. But for the next several years, Chaplin served as something that transcended legal definition. He was the father Jackie had lost. He was the protector Jackie needed. When Jackie's career exploded after The Kid, Chaplin was there to guide him through the chaos of child stardom. When vultures circled, studio executives who wanted to exploit the boy, journalists who wanted scandal, Chaplin stood between them and his young co-star like a snarling guard dog. He taught Jackie that talent was a gift, but discipline was a choice. That the laughter you gave the world came at a price, and you had to decide every day whether that price was worth paying. And when Jackie's own mother and stepfather eventually stole his entire fortune, $4 million, earned through years of grueling work, it was Chaplin who testified before the California legislature, helping pass the law that now protects all child performers. They called it the Coogan Law, but it should have been called something else. It should have been called the promise one broken man made to a broken boy on a cold soundstage floor. The promise that no child would ever be alone with their pain again. Charlie Chaplin outlived Jackie Coogan by many years. He made more films, married again, had more children. He was exiled from America and welcomed back. He received standing ovations and death threats, sometimes in the same week. But those who knew him said that something fundamental changed after the kid. A hardness in him softened, a door that had been sealed since childhood opened, just a crack to let light in. In his autobiography published in 1964, Chaplin devoted an entire chapter to the making of the kid. He wrote about the technical challenges, the legal battles with his estranged wife who tried to seize the negative, the grueling editing process. But about Jackie Coogan himself, he wrote surprisingly little, just one line, buried near the end of the chapter. In Jackie I found something I had been searching for my entire life. I found proof that the cruelty of the world does not have to be its final word. Jackie Coogan died in 1984, at the age of 60. By then he had transformed himself multiple times. Child star, teenage heartthrob, World War II hero, who flew gliders into enemy territory, and finally Uncle Fester on The Addams Family, a role that introduced him to a new generation. At his memorial service, his children read a letter they had found among his possessions. It was dated December 1920, written just days after his collapse on the set of The Kid. The letter was from Charlie Chaplin. It was short, only a few lines, but those lines contained everything. Dear Jackie, it began. Today you taught me something that all my success could never teach me. You taught me that strength is not pretending the pain doesn't exist. Strength is letting someone see it. Strength is letting someone help you carry it. I spent 30 years carrying mine alone. I don't want that for you. From now on we carry it together, always. Your friend Charlie. The congregation wept, because they understood, finally, what had really happened on that soundstage 64 years earlier. Two people who had every reason to be destroyed by life, had found each other instead, and in finding each other, they had discovered something that fame and fortune and all the applause in the world could never provide. They had discovered that the opposite of loneliness isn't company, it's being truly seen. Charlie Chaplin saw Jackie Coogan, and Jackie Coogan saw Charlie Chaplin, and because of that, neither of them ever had to be alone again. The camera that captured their final scene together still exists. It sits in a museum in Hollywood, behind glass, accompanied by a small placard explaining its historical significance. But the most important thing it ever recorded wasn't preserved on film. It was preserved in two hearts. A comedian who learned to feel, a boy who learned to hope, and a whispered promise that changed everything.